When a man reaches 60, something changes in a way that's almost physical. His body starts talking to him in small, stubborn ways before his mind can catch up. Like how a simple disagreement now stays in his head longer than it used to, or how one tense evening can throw off his sleep for 2 nights. In his younger years, he brushed off these signals as nothing. At 60, he's not weaker, he's sharper. Experience has made him calmer, more selective, and far more aware of what truly matters. Of course, not every older man takes this path, but many who've lived through divorce, rebuilding, or emotional exhaustion recognize these shifts immediately. He no longer asks what feels good. He asks what his day can realistically handle. You can care about someone and still know they don't fit the life you're protecting. The real shift comes when he stops asking, "Can this work?" and starts asking, "Can I stay the man I've become if I stay here?" At 60, a man no longer fears losing someone, he fears losing himself. The sanctity of ritual. For many older men, routines are not about rigidity. Men at this age carry a discipline younger men rarely understand. Decades of trial and error have made their routines powerful, not restrictive. This is why compatibility after 60 looks different. Take the morning coffee test. A 60-year-old man often needs 20 minutes of silence at sunrise. A retired engineer named Thomas, now 67, said, "Those 20 quiet minutes decide whether my whole day works or falls apart. One small interruption can throw the whole day off." That's why he protects this time. No talking, no demands, just a slow ritual that gives his morning a predictable start. If a new partner tries to fill that silence, turn it into conversation, or treat it as a moment to connect, he feels the mismatch in his body before he even names it. Not every woman does this. It usually appears only in relationships where the rhythm between two people is already mismatched. Not because she intruded, but because that space is his reset point for the entire day. When she respects that space, she doesn't lose closeness. She earns trust because she aligns with the rhythm that keeps him centered. Seneca once wrote that nothing is more precious than time, because once it is taken, it cannot be returned. For older men, honoring their daily rituals is not stubbornness. It is the ultimate act of protecting the life they still have left. The next shift is sharper and far less forgiving. When he controls his morning, he controls everything that follows. 3 signs your morning rhythm truly works for you. You start the day without tension. You don't feel rushed by anyone's expectations. You stay calmer for the next several hours. The demand for absolute clarity. For a lot of men at this age, there is one thing more expensive than conflict: prolonged misunderstanding. With age, he loses all tolerance for anything vague. One man, 62, told me, "If something feels unclear, it stays in my head all day. I don't have the bandwidth for guessing anymore." That clarity isn't bitterness, it's wisdom. He has lived long enough to know that honesty protects both people, not just himself. Soft, indirect language might avoid an argument in the moment, but it builds a quiet pressure that wears on him far more than one honest conversation ever could. This is why communication after 60 must be clean, simple, and direct. And when a partner communicates with the same clarity, conversations become lighter, conflicts dissolve faster, and both move through the day with far more ease. It saves him from spending what strength he has left on decoding tone, hidden meanings, or mixed signals. One of his strongest tools is a boundary spoken plainly. Learning to say no without explanation. Learning to name the feeling instead of attacking the person. I feel pressured, not you're being unreasonable. I need space, not I'll be fine. This kind of directness is not harshness. It is kindness. It's not about rules, it's about what finally feels livable. Honesty is not cruelty at this age. It is how he protects the stability of the relationship and of his own mind. And when a connection becomes a place where honest speech dies, he steps back to save the parts of himself he still needs. You've done enough, and you've done more than you admit. If that line felt familiar, you are not alone. A lot of men carry the same truth quietly. If that line landed for you, feel free to say something below. Men your age always help each other understand themselves a little better. Speak clearly and ask clearly. No guessing, no reading between lines. 3 signs communication is actually healthy. You both say what you mean. No guessing, no decoding. Conversations leave you lighter, not heavier. The rule of the absence of performance. By 60, he's done performing for anyone. As Epictetus taught, a man is free the moment he stops acting for the approval of others. If a relationship starts expecting constant excitement or dramatic highs, it puts a weight on him he can't carry anymore. Of course, not all women expect this. These patterns show up mostly in imbalanced relationships where both sides have different emotional speeds, and he won't apologize for that shift. At this age, the greatest luxury is not adventure. Many men say they're done with stressful vacations. A 64-year-old widower shared, "I don't need big plans. I just want days that don't drain me." A quiet weekend now feels better than any trip packed with noise. Being flexible is normal. Dressing up for dinner or showing up for her plans is part of loving someone. But performance is different. Performance is when he has to act more cheerful than he feels, hide his real opinions, or mute his natural pace just to keep the peace. The real cost isn't just time or money, it's the mental guard he has to keep up. When every joke needs to be filtered, every sentence rehearsed in his head first, the relationship stops feeling like love and starts feeling like a performance review. The ideal relationship is the one where who he is privately and who he is with her don't contradict each other, where he can follow the sequence his day naturally requires without being pushed into a faster tempo. Most men feel this truth long before they can say it out loud. Authenticity is the simplest way to stay aligned with yourself. Protecting your recovery time is not selfish. It's how you stay functional. He steps back when the relationship starts expecting a version of him he can't sustain anymore. At 60, he's not protecting an image. He's protecting his identity. Any bond that asks him to split himself in two is already too expensive. If he has to act to stay, that place is no longer his place. Stay as you are privately and let any relationship fit the man you already are. The protection of physical energy. By 60, a man realizes something younger men never think about. His physical energy is no longer unlimited. It shapes the pace of his entire day. Doctors will tell you the same thing most older men feel. After 60, stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol don't clear out as fast as they used to. The tension sits longer in his system, raising his heart rate, tightening his chest, and stealing his sleep. A stressful morning follows him into the afternoon. One 61-year-old man shared, "If the day starts with traffic and an annoying phone call, I'm drained till evening. It didn't used to be like that." Another man, 70, told me he now plans his weeks around energy, not ambition. There's a tipping point every man feels but rarely names. Arguments that used to just frustrate him now leave him with headaches, indigestion, or blood pressure numbers he doesn't like. He isn't just tired of drama. His body is sending medical warnings. Of course, many of my single friends at this age still look incredibly strong, younger than their years. If you're in that group, that's something to be proud of. Discipline built that. And some men at this age still choose intensity and adventure. That path is valid too. But many others prioritize steadiness because their bodies no longer let them ignore what truly keeps them healthy. But even then, a little caution is wise, because protecting what you've earned is part of honoring your health. As his body slows, his standards rise. He no longer risks his health just to keep a connection alive. What used to be a quick spike of stress now lingers in his body for hours, sometimes days. That's why he steps back from people who push him into a pace he can't sustain. Every argument, every sleepless night, every day spent on edge is a withdrawal from the only health account he has left. At this stage, he has to invest his energy where it actually grows his life back, not where it keeps burning it. When he asks for calm, he's asking to stay himself. A connection that honors his physical rhythm makes him stronger. A connection that ignores it slowly breaks down the man he has worked to rebuild. That is why his physical energy becomes non-negotiable now. Energy is the currency of older men. Spend it where it returns something. Say no faster, rest earlier, and walk away from anything that takes more than it gives back. The rule of social orbit control. For many men in their 60s, their social circle is not decoration. A new partner cannot ask him to abandon these witnesses. This is why social independence becomes non-negotiable. He needs his own orbit. Lunches with old friends, family visits, quiet rituals with people who knew him long before any new relationship entered his life. Another man put it bluntly, "If someone expects me to cut back on my old friends, I'm out." At this age, friends are emotional pillars. When the connection starts limiting who he spends time with, it no longer feels supportive. Not every partner behaves this way. It's something that tends to happen when insecurity or past wounds begin shaping the connection. It is subtle isolation. The greatest complexity appears with his children and grandchildren. Any partner who enters his life at this stage must add harmony, not tension. Older men have learned the hard way. Harmony with family is irreplaceable, and no romance is worth sacrificing it. So the rule is simple but firm. You do not need a new society, but you still need meaningful connection, the kind that strengthens you instead of stretching you thin. You need someone who can step into the society you already built, without erasing it, without rearranging it, and without pulling you away from the people who remind you of who you truly are. You've spent decades holding things together. Predictability isn't comfort. It's what you've earned. Your life, your rules. Protect both. If these words fit the man you've become, you'll feel at home here. He steps back from anyone who tries to shrink the life he built. And if you feel steadier listening to conversations like this, you're already in the right place. So far, we've seen why ritual, clarity, authenticity, and social independence become non-negotiable after 60. Now we move into the emotional foundations that decide whether a relationship grows or breaks at this stage of life. A man who honors his circle stays grounded no matter who enters his life. Your friends, your family, your routine, they are part of your stability. Don't negotiate them. The rule of vulnerability balance. After a man survives a major loss, divorce, betrayal, or the death of someone he loved, there's a reason older men open slowly, not from fear but from memory. What matters now is not the pain he lived through, but the emotional balance he lives with today. Part of this balance is the respect for scars. He doesn't revisit chapters that cost too much to reopen. What matters is who he is now, not the echoes behind him. His vulnerability today is measured by consistency, not confessions about the past. The real test is whether she gives room when he needs a moment to regroup. This isn't about blaming women. It's about recognizing what happens when emotional rhythms don't align over time. Does the connection allow room for him to regroup? Or does that space turn into pressure? Some partners, without meaning to, pull old stories into new arguments. Not everyone does this. It's a common pattern only in relationships where communication has already started slipping. Several men have said, "When something I confessed years ago gets used against me, I shut down. I'd rather keep things to myself." No relationship survives when vulnerability becomes ammunition. So the principle is simple. Trust should flow, but control must stay with you. But protecting old wounds and protecting your current energy are two different things. Openness works only where it's handled with care. Emotional responsibility is about keeping your present from being drained by problems that are not yours to solve. One shields your past, the other preserves the stability you need today. And at this stage of life, both require firm boundaries. He walks away when his openness becomes ammunition instead of understanding. Your honesty has a value. Not everyone earns access to it. Give honesty to people who handle it with care and keep your center with those who don't. Emotional responsibility. No more savior role. By 60, a man finally understands the hidden cost of being the savior. No man reaches 60 without carrying his share of heavy moments. But he also learns he deserves a life that isn't constantly overloaded. Support is healthy, offering guidance, sharing burdens, helping someone think clearly. But rescue is different. Rescue means carrying the weight of problems the other person refuses to solve. Now he reaches an age where he simply needs to be himself again, not the solution to someone else's history. Emotional responsibility is shared. He manages his reactions, and she manages hers. And he also has to confront his own old habit of stepping into the fixer role, because some exhaustion comes not from others, but from the way he trained himself to take on too much. A partnership only works when both carry their part. This boundary exists so he doesn't slip back into carrying more than his share. He's no longer willing to trade his emotional balance for someone else's unfinished work. And protecting that truth doesn't make him closed off, it makes him healthy. A simple way to see the difference is to set a quiet internal benchmark. No relationship can stand if one person regulates everyone's emotions. You've spent years caring more than anyone ever saw. No wonder your inner truth feels sacred now. A grown man no longer needs someone to save. He's not looking for rescue, just a life that doesn't require constant emotional repair. He needs someone calm enough to walk beside him. A partner, not a project. Healing isn't dramatic. It's steady, simple, and shared. Carry what's yours, and let others carry what's theirs. Carry your load, let others carry theirs, and stay away from emotional imbalance. Alignment with a higher purpose. After 60, a man's sense of time changes. At this age, direction is life, distraction is death. He thinks in what remains, in the final work he still wants to bring into the world. Purpose at this age isn't about earning money, it's about self-completion. It might be finishing a book, learning a language, or simply becoming a better grandfather. This is the work that must be done before the clock runs out. Any relationship that feels like a drag, pulling him off this final sprint, is the most costly waste of his remaining time. He has finished his work. Now he must complete his life. For some men, that final work is simple: finishing a backyard project, fixing up the house, or spending more afternoons with family. A 63-year-old contractor told me, "At this age, if something disrupts my direction, I walk away. I've wasted enough years." Whether his direction is a project in the garage or a promise he made to himself, he won't let anything pull him away from it now. His purpose becomes sharper, quieter, and far less negotiable. That shift changes how he views relationships. He wants a connection that respects the direction he's moving in, not one that keeps pulling him sideways. At this age, only one thing matters. Does she steady his days or crowd his mind? When his mind stays overloaded too long, he starts losing the stability he worked hard to regain. And that loss becomes the real reason he walks away. The ideal connection becomes something most people never think about. Shared silence. Just the gentle presence of someone who doesn't compete with his purpose, but respects it without needing to fill the air. He'll walk away from warmth if it costs him his direction, not out of coldness, but out of dignity. And at 60, a man finally understands which one he is willing to stake the rest of his life on. If you want to keep walking through these shifts with me, you can stay close. There's always a next step for men who don't want to drift through the years ahead. And one of the places misalignment shows up fastest is money. Not the amount, but the expectations around it. The right person moves with your direction, not against it. The rule of legacy clarity. At 60, money is no longer a romantic idea. It is a shield, the last barrier between your family and unnecessary legal or emotional chaos. He steps away from relationships that become financially unclear because he has seen how money can turn affection into tension. Every unclear agreement becomes a future conflict waiting for the wrong moment to explode. Spelling things out is not greed at this age. It is responsibility. One of the deepest fears older men carry is the gaze of their children. If a relationship puts him in a position where his children may question his judgment, he withdraws quietly long before conflict appears. Not judgment about wealth, but judgment about the legacy they leave behind. A relationship built on vague financial expectations becomes a burden your family must untangle after you're gone. Older men walk away not out of coldness, but because no romance is worth leaving behind confusion or resentment for the people he loves. What matters most is transparency, knowing what's his, what's hers, and what's truly shared, and what they build together willingly, not by assumption. Because here is the truth most men learn too late. Protecting your legacy is the final act of self-respect. If defining money creates conflict, the relationship is already too costly. In peace and in dignity. Clear terms today prevent chaos tomorrow. That's the whole point. He leaves when the relationship risks creating confusion his family would have to deal with later. A clear legacy is the last gift you give your family. 3 non-negotiables for financial peace after 60. Everything written. No vague expectations. Your family understands the boundaries. Transparency now prevents conflict later for you and the people you care about. When a man reaches 60, he finally sees the patterns that quietly broke him for years. Most older men don't walk away because they fear connection. They walk away when connection demands pieces of them they can't afford to lose anymore. But leaving doesn't mean he closes his heart. He still wants companionship. Just a steady one, a low-drama one that honors the man he's become. When a partner respects how his life runs and gives room without turning it into separation and walks beside what matters to him, he opens easily. So if you're an older man listening to this, remember, everything we covered comes down to one truth. A man at 60 protects what keeps him whole. You're not stepping away from love. You're stepping into the life that was always meant for you. You're not leaving anything behind. You're finally choosing yourself. The only thing you owe the world now is your dignity and your peace. Everything else is a choice. Subscribe if you want the next steps. If this brought you clarity, thank you for your time. And if you want more conversations like this, you're always welcome here at Move or Die Stoic. A man at 60 chooses what keeps him whole. Everything else chooses itself out. Peace isn't what he guards. It's what he finally becomes.